I loved Megan with everything I had. For 2 years, she was my peace, my partner, my future. We would spend Sunday mornings making pancakes together, laughing at nothing, dreaming about the house we would buy someday. I thought I had found my person, but everything changed when her sister got divorced and moved back to town with 3 kids who seemed to run on pure chaos. Suddenly, our weekends were not ours anymore, and I never imagined that a single ultimatum about babysitting would force me to make a decision that would change my entire life. Before we dive into this story, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below. If you have ever had to choose between love and your own self-respect, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Trust me, you are going to want to stay for this one. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the days when everything felt perfect. I met Megan at a company holiday party 2 years ago. She was standing by the dessert table laughing at something her coworker said, and I remember thinking she had the kind of smile that could light up an entire room. I walked over, made some awkward joke about the fruitcake nobody was eating, and somehow she laughed. We talked for 3 hours that night. By the end of the evening, I had her number, and by the end of that month, we were officially together. Those first 2 years were everything I had hoped a relationship could be. Megan was thoughtful in ways that constantly surprised me. She would leave little notes in my laptop bag before I went to work. She remembered the names of my coworkers and asked about them. When my dad got sick and I had to fly home for 2 weeks, she handled everything at my apartment without me even asking. She watered my plants, paid my bills, and called me every night just to make sure I was okay. We had our routines, and I loved every single one of them. Saturday mornings were for hiking at the trails near Lake Hudson. Saturday nights were for trying new restaurants or cooking elaborate meals together that we found on the internet. Sundays were lazy, filled with coffee books and long conversations about nothing and everything. I started saving money for an engagement ring. I'd even picked one out, a simple diamond on a white gold band, classic and elegant just like her. I was so certain she was the one. Megan always said the same thing whenever we faced any challenge together. She would look at me with those warm brown eyes and say, "We are a team, Jimmy. You and me against the world." I believed her. I believed every word. Then Brenda came back. Brenda was Megan's older sister, 5 years her senior, and for most of our relationship, she had lived 3 states away in Ohio with her husband and 3 kids. I had only met her twice, once at a family barbecue and once at Christmas. She seemed nice enough, a little loud, a little scattered, but nothing that raised any red flags. Her kids were young and energetic, but what kids are not? Everything changed in March when Brenda discovered her husband had been having an affair with his secretary for over 2 years. The divorce was quick and brutal. Brenda got custody of the kids, a modest settlement, and a one-way ticket back to her hometown to start over. She found an apartment about 15 minutes from Megan's place, and just like that, she was back in our lives. At first, I supported the situation completely. Family is important, and Brenda was going through something devastating. Megan wanted to be there for her sister, and I understood that. I encouraged it even. I helped Brenda move boxes into her new apartment. I assembled furniture. I told Megan to take whatever time she needed to help her sister get back on her feet. But then I met the kids. Really met them. Tyler was 9 years old and seemed to operate on a frequency of constant destruction. He could not sit still for more than 30 seconds, and when he got bored, he broke things. Not accidentally, deliberately. Madison was 7 and had perfected the art of the high-pitched scream. She screamed when she was happy, when she was sad, when she was hungry, when she was ignored, when she got exactly what she wanted. Logan was 5 and still not potty trained, which meant accidents happened everywhere constantly without warning. The first time I spent real time with all 3 of them was at a family dinner at Megan's mother's house. Within 20 minutes, Tyler had knocked over a lamp, Madison had screamed so loud the neighbors came to check if everything was okay, and Logan had an accident on the dining room chair. Brenda barely reacted. She just sighed and said, "Kid's right," like this was completely normal behavior. Megan nodded sympathetically. I sat there in stunned silence, wondering what alternate universe I had stepped into. A few weeks later, Brenda asked Megan if she could watch the kids for one evening. She had a job interview and could not afford a babysitter. Megan agreed immediately and told me we would be spending Friday night at her apartment with the 3 of them. I figured it was one night. How bad could it be? The answer was very bad. Within the first hour, Tyler discovered my laptop on the kitchen counter and decided it would be fun to play games on it while drinking a can of soda. He spilled the entire thing across the keyboard. The screen flickered once and went black. 3 years of work files, personal photos, and documents gone in an instant. When I told Megan what happened, she just shrugged and said, "He is just a kid, Jimmy. He did not mean to do it." There was no apology from Tyler, no offer from Brenda to help replace it. Nothing. Madison spent the entire evening demanding ice cream before dinner, and when we said no, she screamed for 45 straight minutes. I am not exaggerating. I timed it. Logan had 2 accidents on the carpet, and I was the one who ended up cleaning them because Megan was too busy trying to calm Madison down. By the time Brenda came to pick them up at 10:30 that night, I was exhausted in a way I had never experienced before. My laptop was destroyed. The apartment smelled like cleaning solution and failure, and Megan acted like nothing unusual had happened. I told myself it was a one-time thing. Brenda was struggling. She needed help. This would not become a regular occurrence. I was wrong. 1 month later, Brenda found a job working the evening shift at a distribution center. The pay was decent, but the hours were brutal, mostly nights and weekends. And since she could not afford regular childcare, she made an arrangement with Megan. Every Saturday and Sunday, the kids would come to our place so Brenda could work. The thing is, Megan made this arrangement without discussing it with me first. I found out on a Thursday evening when she casually mentioned that the kids would be coming over that weekend. "Wait, what?" I asked, setting down my fork. "This weekend." "Yeah, and probably most weekends going forward," she said, like she was telling me about a change in the weather. "Brenda needs us. She cannot do this alone." "But you did not think to ask me first. We had plans this weekend. We were going to drive up to the mountains." She looked at me with a mixture of confusion and disappointment. "Jimmy, she is my sister. Her kids are my niece and nephews. I cannot just say no." And that was the end of the discussion. Our mountain trip was canceled. Our weekends from that point forward belonged to Tyler, Madison, and Logan. The first few weekends were manageable, if I am being generous with that word. But as the weeks went on, the kids seemed to get worse, not better. Tyler discovered that throwing things was more fun than playing with them normally. He threw toys, books, food, anything he could get his hands on. One Saturday, he threw a baseball in the living room and shattered a framed photo of Megan and me from our 1-year anniversary. Madison's screaming continued unabated. She had learned that if she screamed long enough, someone would eventually give her what she wanted just to make the noise stop. And since Megan refused to discipline her, Madison got everything she demanded. Logan, at 5 years old, showed no signs of being potty trained anytime soon. Every weekend brought new accidents, new stains, new furniture that needed to be cleaned or replaced. One particular Saturday stands out in my memory. Tyler found my new laptop, the one I had bought to replace the one he destroyed, and used a marker to draw all over the screen. When I discovered it, I was furious. I went to Megan and showed her the damage. "You need to talk to him," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "This is the second computer he has ruined. He is 9, Jimmy. He does not know any better. Then teach him. Set boundaries. Something." She crossed her arms and looked at me like I was the unreasonable one. "Brenda is going through a hard time. I am not going to make things harder by criticizing her kids." Madison drew all over our bedroom wall with permanent marker that same weekend. Logan ruined the couch cushions, and Megan acted like all of this was perfectly normal, just the price of being a good sister. I started retreating. When the kids came over, I would hide in the bedroom or the small home office I had set up in the corner of the apartment. I wore noise-canceling headphones. I tried to create a small bubble of sanity in the middle of the chaos, but even that was not sustainable. After about 2 months of this, I decided I needed to have a real conversation with Megan. I waited until a Wednesday evening when the apartment was quiet and it was just the two of us. I made her favorite dinner, poured some wine, and sat her down at the kitchen table. "I need to talk to you about something." I began choosing my words carefully. "About the weekends." She immediately tensed up. "What about them?" "I am exhausted, Megan. Every single weekend is consumed by watching the kids. We have not had time for ourselves in months. Our relationship is suffering. I am suffering." "So, what are you saying, that you want me to abandon my sister?" "No, that is not what I am saying at all. I am saying maybe we could cut it down to 1 day instead of 2. Or maybe Brenda could find a professional babysitter for some of the time. There has to be some middle ground here." Megan's expression hardened. You are being selfish, Jimmy. My sister is a single mom with 3 kids. She does not have the money for babysitters. She does not have anyone else. And you are complaining because you have to give up a few weekends. A few weekends, Megan, it has been every single weekend for 2 months. And it is not just the time. Her kids have destroyed 2 of my laptops, ruined furniture drawn on our walls. And you will not let me say a single word about their behavior. Because they are children. They are going through a hard time too. Their parents just got divorced. Have some compassion. The conversation went nowhere. We ended up in a cold silence that lasted 3 days, and nothing changed. A week later, I got a phone call that made everything worse. It was Diana, Megan's mother. She had heard about our disagreement and decided to weigh in. Jimmy, I need you to be a man about this, she said, her voice dripping with condescension. Megan needs your support right now. Brenda needs your support. This is what family does. We show up for each other. With all due respect, Diana, I have been showing up every weekend, but there has to be some balance. Balance? She laughed, and it was not a kind laugh. When you marry into a family, you do not get to pick and choose when you show up. If you cannot handle that, maybe you are not the right person for my daughter. She hung up before I could respond. And in that moment, I realized something that had been building for weeks. I was not just dealing with Megan's sister and her kids. I was dealing with an entire family that saw me as an outsider, someone whose needs and boundaries did not matter. The breaking point came on a Saturday in early September. I had a major project deadline on Monday, and I had told Megan repeatedly that I needed to work from home that weekend. I had set up my desk in the office corner. I had my noise-canceling headphones ready, and I had practically begged for just a few hours of uninterrupted time. The kids arrived at 9 in the morning as usual. I closed my office door, put on my headphones, and tried to focus. For about an hour, things were manageable. I could hear muffled chaos through the door, but I was making progress on my work. Then the knocking started. Tyler stood on the other side of the door, banging his fists against it. Let me in. I want to play on the computer. Let me in. I ignored him, hoping he would get bored and go away. He did not. The knocking became pounding. The pounding became kicking. I could hear Madison screaming about something in the living room, and Logan crying, and through all of it, Tyler's relentless assault on my door. After 15 minutes, I heard Megan's voice. Finally, I thought. She was going to tell him to stop. Jimmy, can you just let him in for a little while? He really wants to play on the computer. I pulled off my headphones and stared at the door in disbelief. Megan, I told you I need to work. I have a deadline. It will just be for a few minutes. He will get bored and leave. No, I am sorry, but no. I need to finish this. There was a pause. Then her voice turned cold. Fine. Whatever. I put my headphones back on and tried to focus. But 10 minutes later, I heard the lock click. Tyler had found the spare key. The door burst open, and he charged at my desk, reaching for my computer. I want to play. Give it to me. Tyler, stop. I stood up, trying to block him from the desk. You cannot be in here right now. He pushed against me, small fists swinging. In the struggle, he shoved my monitor, and I watched in slow motion as it teetered, fell, and smashed against the floor. The screen cracked into a spiderweb of broken glass. Something inside me snapped. 2 months of frustration, exhaustion, and feeling invisible came rushing to the surface. That is enough, I said louder than I had ever spoken to a child. You need to stop this right now. Tyler's eyes went wide and he burst into tears. Within seconds, Megan appeared in the doorway, her face twisted with anger. Did you just yell at him? Did you seriously just scream at a 9-year-old? Megan, he broke into my office and destroyed my monitor. I have been trying to work all morning. He is a child, Jimmy. He does not know any better. How dare you raise your voice at my nephew? The argument that followed was the worst we had ever had. 2 years of relationship, and I had never seen this side of her. She called me selfish. She called me heartless. She said I clearly did not care about her family, and if I could not see that her sister needed help, then something was fundamentally wrong with me. And then she said it. The words that changed everything. You need to step up or get out, Jimmy. If you cannot accept these kids as family, if you cannot be there for my sister when she needs it, then we do not have a future together. It is that simple. Step up or get out. The room went silent. I could hear Madison crying in the other room, Tyler sniffling next to Megan, Logan making some noise in the background. But in that moment, all I could hear was my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. "You are giving me an ultimatum," I asked, my voice quiet. "You are telling me to choose between my own self-respect and this relationship." She did not answer. She just stared at me, arms crossed, jaw set, waiting for me to cave like I always had. But this time was different. I did not sleep that night. I lay in bed next to Megan, who had her back turned to me, and I stared at the ceiling for hours. I replayed the last 2 years in my mind, all the good times and all the warning signs I'd ignored. The way she always put her family first, even at the expense of our relationship. The way my needs were always secondary to whatever crisis Brenda was facing. The way I had slowly become invisible in my own life. Around 3 in the morning, I got up and went to the living room. I called Marcus, my best friend and coworker, knowing he would be awake because he worked night shifts that month. "What is going on, brother?" he asked, concern in his voice. I told him everything. The weekends, the destroyed property, the ultimatum. All of it. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something I will never forget. "Jimmy, listen to me. A person who really loves you would never make you choose like that. She is not asking you to step up. She is asking you to disappear to erase your own needs so she does not have to deal with them. That is not love, man. That is control." He was right. I knew he was right. I had known it for weeks, maybe months, but I'd been too afraid to admit it. When morning came, I found Megan in the kitchen making coffee. She looked at me expectantly, probably waiting for my apology for me to say I had overreacted, and of course I would keep babysitting every weekend. Instead, I took a deep breath and said, "I have made my decision. I am choosing to leave." Her face went through about 5 different expressions in 3 seconds. Shock, confusion, anger, disbelief, and finally, something that almost looked like fear. "You are not serious?" she said. "I am. You gave me 2 choices, Megan. Step up or get out. I am getting out. Jimmy, come on. We can talk about this." I was upset. I did not mean it like that. "But you did mean it. You have been meaning it for months. Every time I tried to express how I felt, you dismissed me. Every time I asked for some balance, you called me selfish. I cannot spend the rest of my life feeling like an outsider in my own relationship." I spent the next few hours packing my things. Megan cried. She apologized. She promised things would change. But I had heard those promises before, after every argument, and nothing ever did. I loaded my car with what I could fit and told her I would come back for the rest later. For the next few weeks, my phone barely stopped buzzing. Megan called and texted, constantly swinging between apologetic and angry. Diana called too, and her tone had changed dramatically. Suddenly, she was understanding. Suddenly, she thought maybe they had asked too much of me. Suddenly, she wanted to talk things through. Brenda even reached out. She apologized for relying on us so much and said she would find alternative childcare. It was the first time she had acknowledged that the situation was a burden. But I saw through all of it. They were not sorry for how they had treated me. They were sorry they had lost their free babysitter. They were sorry the comfortable arrangement had been disrupted. Not one of them asked how I was doing or acknowledged the months of stress I had endured. It was all about fixing the situation so things could go back to normal for them. I did not go back. The first month after leaving Megan was brutal. I stayed in Marcus's spare room surrounded by boxes of my belongings, feeling like my entire life had been compressed into a 10 by 10-foot space. I missed her. Despite everything I missed, the good times, the Sunday mornings, the inside jokes, the feeling of having someone who was supposed to be my partner. There were nights when I questioned everything. Maybe I had overreacted. Maybe I should have tried harder. Maybe this was all my fault. Those thoughts would circle through my head at 2 in the morning, keeping me awake, making me wonder if I had just thrown away the best thing in my life. But then I would remember the ultimatum. Step up or get out. I would remember all the times my feelings had been dismissed. I would remember the broken laptops and the ruined furniture, and the fact that not once, not a single time had anyone in that family apologized or offered to make things right. I was not sorry for leaving. I was only sorry it had taken me so long. Marcus was incredible during those weeks. He did not try to fix things or offer unsolicited advice. He just listened. When I needed to vent at midnight, he was there. When I needed to sit in silence, he understood. Having a friend like that made all the difference. Around the 2-month mark, things started to shift. I threw myself into work, and my dedication paid off. My manager noticed the extra hours I was putting in and recommended me for a promotion. By month 3, I had a new title and a significant raise. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was building something for myself, not just surviving. I started going to the gym regularly. It was not about getting in shape, really. It was about having a place to go where I could clear my head, where I could focus on something physical instead of the emotional weight I'd been carrying. Within a few weeks, I noticed my energy improving. I was sleeping better. The fog that had settled over me was starting to lift. I joined a hiking group that met every other weekend. They were mostly strangers at first, people from all different backgrounds who just wanted to spend time outdoors. But over time, they became friends. Real friends who did not expect anything from me except my company. We would tackle trails that I never would have attempted before, and with each summit, I felt a little more like myself. I also reconnected with my own family. When I was with Megan, I had let those relationships fade into the background. Her family always seemed to need more demand, more, and there was never enough time left over for anyone else. But now, I called my parents every Sunday. I visited my brother and his wife for a long weekend. My mom hugged me when she saw me and said something I will never forget. "You deserve to be loved the right way, Jimmy. Do not ever settle for less than that." I started reading books about relationships, about boundaries, about what healthy partnerships actually look like. I realized how many red flags I had ignored with Megan, the way she made decisions without consulting me, the way her family's needs always came first, the way I had slowly shrunk myself to fit into the space she allowed me to occupy. I promised myself I would never let that happen again. Around the 6-month mark, something unexpected happened. I was at a work conference standing in line for coffee when I heard someone say my name. I turned around and saw Harper. She had worked at my company a few years back before transferring to a different department, and we had always gotten along well. She was kind, thoughtful, and had this way of making everyone around her feel comfortable. We started talking, and before I knew it, we had been standing by the coffee station for over an hour. She asked about my life, and I found myself being honest in a way I had not expected. I told her about Megan, about the breakup, about the rebuilding process. She listened without judgment. "That sounds incredibly hard," she said when I finished. "But it also sounds like you made the right choice. Not everyone has the courage to walk away from something that is not working." We exchanged numbers that day. Coffee turned into dinners. Dinners turned into long walks through the city. And slowly, something new began to grow. Harper had a nephew she adored, a 7-year-old named Theo. The first time she mentioned wanting me to meet him, she did something that nearly brought me to tears. She asked, "I would love for you to meet Theo sometime," she said, "but only if you are comfortable with it. And only when you are ready. There is no pressure." No pressure, no ultimatums, just consideration for my feelings and respect for my boundaries. It was such a simple thing, but after what I had been through, it felt revolutionary. When I finally did meet Theo, I braced myself for chaos. But he was a normal kid. A little shy at first, but polite and kind. And when he accidentally spilled his juice on my shirt, Harper immediately apologized, and Theo looked genuinely sorry. "It is okay, buddy," I told him. "Accidents happen." And it was okay. Because this was not about the spilled juice. It was about the response. It was about being with people who acknowledged mistakes and cared about how their actions affected others. Looking back now, I can see the whole journey clearly. Meeting Megan, falling in love, slowly losing myself, and finally finding the courage to walk away. It was the hardest thing I have ever done, but it was also the most important. I do not hate Megan. I genuinely hope she finds happiness somewhere, but I also know that what we had was not healthy, and staying would have cost me far more than leaving ever did. The ultimatum she gave me that day felt like a death sentence at the time. Step up or get out. She thought she was forcing me to submit. Instead, she gave me the push I needed to reclaim my life. Sometimes walking away is not giving up. It is the bravest thing you can do. It is choosing yourself when everyone else is telling you that your needs do not matter. It is refusing to shrink yourself to make someone else comfortable. If you are standing at a crossroads right now facing an ultimatum that does not respect who you are, I want you to know that you have options. You do not have to accept terms that diminish you. You do not have to stay in a situation where your voice is never heard. You are allowed to choose yourself. And sometimes when you do, the life waiting for you on the other side is better than anything you could have imagined. So here is my question for you. Have you ever had to choose between a relationship and your own self-respect? What did you do? Drop your answer in the comments below. I read every single one, and I would love to hear your story. If this video touched you in any way, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you are not subscribed yet, go ahead and click that subscribe button so you do not miss any future stories. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. You never know whose life you might change. Thank you so much for watching and for being part of this community. I wish you the courage to choose yourself always. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.